to formally welcome you all and thanks for participating in the South Carolina Finance Forum. My name is Jim Morris. I'm the CEO for SC Economics. And we have with us our intern, Lucia Brown, waving there. And we also have our presenters, Michael Beacham and his wife, and Susan, there you are too, okay? So in just a minute, I'll turn it over to them. We do have, let's see, we have 32 folks participating. You're welcome to, chat in the chat box if you want. Lucia will probably be monitoring that a little bit. And at this point, I'd like to, and we will end up at about 7:45. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Michael Beacham, and feel free to introduce yourself a little more.
Thank you very much, Jim. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. Here we go. Okay. So thank you everybody for joining. The objective of this session is to demo for you a budgeting game called Balancing Act, which is really fun. It's great for high school and college. It's possible you might want to use it in middle school. I'd let each teacher decide whether or not their class was right for it, or it was right for your class. But we're going to go through this really fast. Susan and I are going to sort of play the game together. We're going to demonstrate how it works. And like I said, we're going to go sort of at warp speed so that you can get a sense of the game from beginning to end. And at the end, we'll answer any questions that you've got. If you've got a sort of urgent question in the middle of it, feel free to interrupt. If you probably have to turn your mic on to do that. So first of all, I'm Michael Beacham, and I work for Susan Beacham. Susan is actually our CEO at Money Savvy Generation, and we have been doing this for 21 years. We've had a financial education company. Our mission is to help kids get smart about money, and we build curricula and educational toys and tools, all with the goal of financial literacy. Balancing Act is a budgeting game. It is a scripted PowerPoint. It's a classroom game. It's a guided simulation. It is totally scripted so that you know exactly what you need to say on each slide of the presentation. It's an introduction to the concept and the importance of budgeting, and it is a lot of fun. Everything for the game is on a USB drive, and the USB drive is about the size of a credit card, about the size and shape of a credit card. And there's a piece that flips out and will go into your USB drive. On the drive, there are facilitator instructions. There are the PowerPoint slides. They're available in both PowerPoint and PDF. There's a facilitator's script with what you need to say for every page of the presentation. That's in PDF. There are printable participant tally sheets, and there's also an Excel version that is auto-calculating of the score sheet, which would kind of help facilitate playing the game in an electronic format, as we're going to do today, or a remote learning environment like we're going to do today. There are print and cut ABC tiles for selecting random events in the latter part of the game in a section that we call Life Happens. And then there's a printable savings account register for the Life Happens round as well. And you'll get a peek at all of this. The game simulates real life choices, and it forces students to make trade-offs. They pick a career. The career has an associated income. The income for that comes from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. So we've used statistical data to determine income levels as well as expense levels for various spending categories. Susan, I think you wanted to make a point here.
So many of the budgeting games, some of you have participated, I'm sure, in financial fitness fairs, which are difficult to pull off even in pre-pandemic days, but in a pandemic, much harder. So what we've done is we've actually taken that financial fitness forum template and we put it into this presentation so that you can do it in an online presentation. We've also done one other thing. We don't marry anybody off in this. We don't give them kids in this. We've given this set of circumstances to be more relatable, so closer to what the kinds of choices they're going to make, either as they head off from high school into adult life or as they head off from college to adult life. We've seen that something more relatable captures their attention better.
Okay. So let's run through the game quickly and give you a feel for it. The three main sections of it are people pick a career, students pick a career, and then they make various spending choices associated with what it's going to take to live on their own. And then we sort of road test the budget that they end up with some life happens events. At the beginning, we orient the students to careers and occupation, and we tell them that they have an opportunity to pick one that is closest to what they think they might enjoy doing once they start working. So we give students the opportunity to pick one of these careers. Susan, what career are you going to pick?
So we caution the students that maybe your career choice isn't up here, but pick something closest to or something you might be intrigued by. And so I'm going to choose nurse.
Nurse. Okay. So I sent out the tally sheets earlier, and you can play along with your own career if you want, or you can play along with Susan's career choice of nurse. I'm going to bring up the auto-calculating version of the sheet here, the tally sheet, so that you can see how the math works here and how you can use this to sort of go back and make other choices if you find that you're having trouble balancing your budget.
The most important piece on the tally sheet, Michael, if you go back one slide for a second, there's a big green box that says, anytime you run out of money, raise your hand for advice. And in Zoom, you can raise your hand. And so the minute somebody would get into trouble, they can raise their hand. And as a group, you can help them solve their budget challenge.
So we point out to the students that different careers have different educational requirements. And then we point out that education pays. Increased levels of education is associated with higher weekly earnings and lower levels of unemployment. So we tell the students, now that you've picked your career, let's see what the annual salary is associated with that career. Susan, you picked nurse, so that's an annual average salary of $70,000. So up here in the tally sheet, I'm going to put in nurse, and here we've got 70,000. Okay.
So it's at this point that a lot of students want to change their occupation. And that's why we make them put their occupation on their tally sheet when they pick it, so that they don't make a change.
So at this point, we tell students no changing. You're gonna go forward with the career that you picked. And whoops, let's go back over to here. So then we point out to students that there's such a thing as taxes. Okay, so then we all right, here we point out to students that salaries are typically received in small semi-monthly payments. And this is what you might expect to earn a month if you have one of these careers. So you can see the $70,000 is $58.33 a month, but that's before taxes. And we talk some about taxes, what the taxes are used to pay for, and then we show the students what their salary is after, their monthly take home is after taxes. So here I'm going to put 43,
And note that we're only doing
30,
federal taxes because every
26.
state is going to have different state taxes. And so we warn them there's going to be additional taxes, but for the purpose of this exercise, we're only assessing federal taxes.
Correct. So then we go back over here and then we talk about savings. So should you save some of your monthly income? Yes, you should. You should have an emergency fund. Why should you have an emergency fund? Well, you might lose your job. You might have an accident, not be able to work. An emergency fund helps you pay your bills when you can't earn money. And we tell people that you should have at least 6 months of living expenses in your emergency fund. And it takes time to build up to that.
And you might have a pandemic.
Or there might be a pandemic, right? So then we show people what the savings amount would be for each career, if for each job type, if they saved 10% or 20%. Susan, have you decided how much a month you're going to save?
Well, I know I can save 10% or 20%, but I also know I have the choice to save 0, but
Correct. Or less.
or less. So I think I'm going to go with 10%.
10% for a nurse is $433 a month in savings. Okay. So then we're going to talk about expenses. And there we talk to students about the types of expenses. There are fixed expenses like rent and insurance and car payments and student loans, things that you're contractually obligated to. And then there are flexible expenses, things like food and clothing and entertainment. Those are a little bit more discretionary. And sometimes you've got a huge amount of say over whether or not you make that kind of expense. And then we give an example here of 22-year-old recent graduate Molly. She's earning almost $50,000 as a chef. And here we show an example of how she's paying rent. She's got transportation expenses and utilities, and she's got a gym subscription, and she still has money left over every month. And then she's got some financial goals, like paying off $150 of her student loan every month and retirement savings of $200 and all of that. And so we show that at the end of the day, Molly's got $930 to pay for. Those are kind of her fixed expenses, if you will, or her committed expenses. So she's still got $930 at the end of the month to pay for food, entertainment, insurance, things like that. Just an example to show the students what we're talking about and kind of the road that we're headed down here. So student loans, for certain careers, we have assessed a student loan repayment for each of the students. So if a student picked one of these 6 careers, then we assess them a $500 a month student loan payment. Susan did not pick one of those careers, so she has a 0 per month student loan repayment. So then let's talk about housing. You need somewhere to live. Here are your choices for housing. If you can live in a studio apartment for $1,200 a month, you can live in a 1-bedroom apartment for $1,600 a month. You can live in a 2-bedroom apartment, costs $3,000, but the 2 people are splitting, so it comes to $1,500 a month. Or you can live in a 3-bedroom apartment with 3 people, $1,300 a month. Susan, what is your choice?
Well, since I'm a nurse, I am going to be working outside the home, so I don't think I need an extra bedroom. So I'm going to start with a studio.
$1,200 a month. Okay. And then we talk about renter's insurance. Renter's insurance only costs about $14 a month for someone paying $1,200 for a studio. So your choice, and we talk about the benefits here in the script of having renter's insurance. And it's a yes or no decision. Susan, do you want renter's insurance for $14 a month?
I think I do.
Okay. Okay. Now, there are utilities that are associated with living on your own, and they can be expensive. So we point out that utilities can be rather vague on a lease agreement. You need to have a very good understanding with your landlord as to what's included in the rent and what's not. And we've got here, we assign gas, electric, water, and trash for the type of apartment that you've selected. So Susan, you selected a studio so you've got gas, electric, water, trash of $160 a month. And then we are going to give you an option. Do you want internet for your in your apartment? And do you also want cable? Do you also want cable TV?
No, I think I'm just going to start with internet.
$99 and
I can stream on my laptop.
no cable. Okay. Sounds like you're being very conservative. All right. Well, guess what? You've moved out on your own. Your parents have kicked you off the family phone plan. You're going to have a phone and a phone plan. So here are your choices. You can have an iPhone 11 Pro, and you can have either the 256 gig model or the 512 gig model. And you can pay for that over 24 months at those amounts per month. But then you also have to have a data plan. So at $65 a month for regular data or $85 a month for premium data. The only difference between the two is that after you go above a certain amount with the regular data, they slow down your speed. So Susan, what do you think you might want?
Well, I take a lot of pictures. So which model do I want?
Well, probably one with more gigabytes. So you want
Okay.
So
I'm going to go for the
5620.
$56.20 a month. And I'm not too worked up about speed. So I think I'm going to save that extra 20 and go with regular data.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so then transportation. You need to get around. You've got to get to your nursing job. You also have to get out to see your friends and go out to dinner and have fun, assuming that we're not in a pandemic. So here's the deal. So your choices are, you can take public transportation, or you can be gifted a car. But if you're gifted a car from your parents, you do have to pay the insurance and the fuel. So your choice is $150 a month, or you can have one of these fun cars that is gifted to you, but you've got the associated insurance and fuel cost.
Lucky for me, I have good access to public transportation. So I'm going to go with public transportation because it's easier. And then if I have to get anywhere else, I'll just Uber.
Okay, so no fuel, no insurance. There we go. You're making your budget last. Okay, healthcare and health insurance. We point out that it can be provided by your employer, or you can be self-insured. In this instance, we point out that a 22-year-old has an average monthly payment of $244 for health insurance. And so we're going to assign that to you here, because health insurance is really non-optional. So your plan comes with a $500 deductible and $25 co-pays for doctor's visits. Medications for someone your age are typically about $100 a year. Eyeglass exam, $300 for the year, and dentist for $200 a year, including a cleaning and one cavity. So you can budget for that, or you don't have to. Your deductible, do you want to budget for your $500 a year deductible, or do you want to risk it?
I just a side note, this is a great time because you're walking them through expenses that they don't think that they're going to ever have. They don't think they're ever going to have a cavity. They don't think they're ever going to have to get their eyeglasses repaired. So this is kind of a first alert to them. So I would like to definitely budget for my deductible, right? Because if anything happens, I've got to come up with that.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm probably going to have at least one visit to the doctor because I get the flu every year, even if I take a flu shot. So that's 25.
Okay.
I have asthma, so I know I'm going to have medications. So let's put the $100 in there.
Budget for that. Okay.
I only wear readers. I don't wear eyeglasses. Yay! So I don't have to budget for that.
Okay.
And I think it's smart to go to the dentist. So let's budget for that 200.
Okay. So budgeting for your medical expenses costs $68.75 a month in your budget. Okay. You've still got $1,800 of your budget left. So of your monthly salary left. So that's pretty good. But there's clothing. So consumers spend on average about 3.5% of their pre-tax monthly income on clothing. For a nurse, that is $204.17. Do you think that's what you want to budget, or do you want to budget more for clothing? Are you a clothes horse?
I think I'm going to budget $350 because I have uniforms and special shoes on top of my normal clothing.
Okay. All right. And then personal care. Consumers spend about 1.2% of their monthly income on personal hygiene products. So for a nurse, that's about $70. Do you buy expensive shampoo?
Nope, swap, 99 cents. Yes, at my age, at their age, maybe not so much, but at mine, yeah.
All right. So you think $70 a month is good for personal care?
I do.
Yeah. All right. And then charitable giving.
Michael, sorry, go back one.
Okay.
Now, I recognize that even though we took the statistics and the average cost, there's also things that your students are going to do, like their haircuts and their manis and their pedis, and that's the girls. The guys, not so much. So I recognize that may be a low number. You just have to talk that through with them. Okay, Michael, go ahead.
Okay. Charitable giving. On average, Americans contribute 2% of their monthly salaries to charity. Are you feeling charitably inclined?
Well, let's see what it looks like.
Okay, so that's $116.67 a month.
It feels like a big number. Let's do it because I know I want to write a check to the Red Cross and certain organizations. So let's put that in, but that seems heavy for me. We'll see.
Groceries and dining out. So the average American eats 4.2 commercially prepared meals per week. In other words, as a nation, we eat out between 4 and 5 times a week on average. That's lunches and dinners. That's 18.2 meals on average eaten outside the home every month. So we've got some meal choice options for you, students. We've got a low cost plan where you fix most of your meals from fresh ingredients and from scratch. And that costs you on average $226 a month. We have a moderate cost where you prepare most of your meals fresh, but you do buy some prepared and frozen entrees at $281. And then we've got a convenience plan for where you only buy frozen or prepared stuff. Now, this is only for your in-home dining. This does not include the average of 18.2 times a month for lunch and dinner out. So, Susan, what kind of in-home meal diner are you?
So I'm going to go with low cost.
226.
Because when I'm on call at the hospital as a nurse, I usually eat, what the patients are eating. And if you think I'm kidding, I've talked to nurses and they do this.
All right, and then
Yeah.
are you going to dine out? If
I'm
you
gonna dine out, yes, once a week on the weekend, 4 times.
So only really a fraction of this 230. So how much dining out budget are you going to give yourself?
I'm
per
gonna
month?
say, give me $75 in dining out.
$75 a month in dining out. Okay. Entertainment. Consumers spend about 5.6% of their monthly income on entertainment. For a nurse, that's $326 a month.
Okay,
Does that sound like you?
sounds like me.
Okay,
I need
326.
to do something to reduce my stress.
Right. So, so Susan, you have $678 of disposable income available after you have basically budgeted for everything you want. You haven't had to make any trade-offs. Part of the reason why you have so much money is because you've got a relatively high salary as a nurse. I think that if you had chosen a career as a photographer or a chef, you might have difficulty balancing this particular budget. And the students who do choose the lower paying careers will see that. So now we're going to rush through some life happens rounds. So the instructions say to put this 678.77 up in here. I'm going to switch to an Excel version of this that I mocked up that auto calculates. So that was how much was that? 667. Let's see.
Or about, yeah.
Let's see. It was, oops, sorry. It was 678.77. Okay. So now we're going to go through some life happens. These are some instructional pages for the students so they know how to do it on paper. Okay. Round 1 of life happens. A, B, or C. There are some ABC tiles that you can print out. You can put them in a hat or a bowl, and then have a student pick one of these so that A, B, or C comes up as random. Susan,
totally
I'm
random.
going to let you choose which event happens to you.
So I picked C.
C, natural disaster happens in your hometown, you donate to the Red Cross. Well, you had that in your budget. So very nice, $100. Okay, and we give the flexibility on the sheet for a teacher to do at least 2 rounds of A, B, or C for each of the months. But we're just gonna do 1 round for purposes of time here. So we show the students where they should be putting the numbers on their sheets. Round 2, we randomly pick what letter?
B.
I'm sorry, B?
B as in boy.
B as in boy. You get a bonus at work for job well done. All right. So Susan, $500. Very good. And we're going to then go to the next round. Life happens randomly. What happens?
B.
B, your favorite band comes to town. You call into a radio show, you get free tickets, you score 2 tickets. Oh, you get them for 0. So nothing happens. Should we select another round of life happens on this one?
C.
C, Charlie?
Yep.
Okay, your dentist finds 3 cavities. Yeah, you'd only budgeted for 1. So subtract $300 for cavities and $5 for dental floss. So that was 30. Whoops. Wrong.
Come on, guys. The dental floss was a good joke.
Oh,
Couple
fine.
smiles.
Okay, we show students where to put this. And then round 4, life happens, and randomly what happens?
A.
What month are we on? We're on round 4. I put this in the wrong place, didn't I? This was delete. Here we go, 305. Okay, you said A happens. You have to dinner with your friends to celebrate your best friend's birthday, and you pay. And well, you had it in your budget. You had some money in your budget, right? You're already on 4, so $150. Okay, and then we're going to go on to month 5, and what randomly happens?
B.
B.
Wah.
Your apartment is broken into. Your big screen TV is stolen. If you have insurance, your replacement cost is $500. That's your
Deductible.
deductible, isn't it? So
Yeah.
if no insurance, then your replacement cost is $1,500. So it only costs you your deductible.
Deductible, because I took that renter's insurance, and this is where a lot of kids start to gasp and put their heads down on the desk and say it's not fair.
Yeah. All right, and then round 6 of life happens. What randomly happens?
C.
C, you decide to move to a new apartment. You have a great credit score. They waive your application fee. Oh, well, that's nice. So it doesn't cost you anything. And did you want to do another round?
Yeah. B.
B, you get a flat tire. You need to replace it. If you have a car, subtract $300. You don't have a car. Doesn't cost you anything. All right, so look at this. So Susan entered this with monthly disposable income, and her budget not only allowed her to weather the storm of 6 months of life happens, but she continued to build her savings account from $679 to over $3,500. Very good. So Susan, you can see from this budget that you have more money to put away for savings or investing, retirement fund, whatever. So
Emergency fund.
at the back of the slides, we've got resources here. These are the resources that we used to build out this simulation. And here's a special offer for the South Carolina Finance Forum teachers. If you're interested in Balancing Act, if you purchase it between now and the end of the year on our website using this promo code, you will also receive a free copy of the Official Money Guide for Teenagers, which is a book that you might be interested in for your students. You would have to put both items in your cart, your shopping cart, use the promo code, and it will take the price of the book off. So we're at the end. We've done pretty well on time because we really zipped through this. So are there any questions?
You know what, Michael? There are a bunch of questions in chat.
Okay.
Do you want me to go over them? Or
Sure.
yeah.
I'm gonna open.
What everyone, will they be getting the Excel versions also?
Yes. The Excel version of the score sheet, the tally sheet, is on the drive. There's not an Excel version of the Life Happens savings register. I just built that this afternoon just to show you this for demonstration purposes.
Yes, I feel your pain to try to teach 28 dots in virtual learning in high school. Yes, Debbie, thank you. I feel your pain. The many rental contracts and landlords require tenants to have renter's insurance. You're right. That does show up more often than not these days, but there are still situations where you don't have to. And my daughter, who's been taking renter's insurance for 5 years and did not have a problem, decided to broil bacon, and as a result in her oven, burned up the oven, and her insurance company said, lucky you, you haven't had a claim in 5 years. We won't drop you. So
replacement of the oven. Yeah.
Yes, it is fun watching students stress out when they realize what types of expenses they'll be responsible for as adults. Because they, most of the budgeting examples take them into a world they are totally not relating to, getting married, having kids, and so on. So this is a little closer to home, and it seems to have worked out well. Okay, it does come on a USB. Okay, we'll have to look at it.
This is Jim. Could you also, I think there were a couple of things that were sent out at the last minute, if I recall. Could you identify what those are? Because there's a couple of people who said they did not get the, not get them, such as, I mean, the slides, I think may have been one of them. But
No, it was the tally sheet and the savings register. It was the two things that I was showing in Excel that we sent out so that they could play along if they wanted to with their own career.
You'll
Okay.
notice during this whole presentation, we do a lot of the math for them, because that was one of the biggest challenges we have, getting through the math. And then the whole budgeting exercise gets a little bit lost. We don't get through it. So that's why we do quite a bit of the math in advance.
I think there are a couple more questions in the chat. Someone asked how much the program costs.
Oh, it's $39.95.
Okay, and then how many different life happens scenarios come with each game?
There are six rounds of Life Happens.
But there are 3 choices for every round. So, you could end up going through 12.
You could do 12, yeah.
And then one more here. Would you suggest this for middle school students, primarily 6th grade?
I've done it with middle school students.
We have done it with students that age. Yeah.
A lot of times
it's not quite as, it's a little bit more abstract for them because they're not really preparing to be off on their own. I think that high school and college students are more likely to really internalize this, but it is not a bad way to teach middle schoolers about the concept of budgeting. And it's
anything worth teaching in school is worth teaching more than once. And then additionally, a lot of these kids have older siblings. So this is not a new conversation to them. They're hearing it at home. So give them perspective. How could it hurt? Any other questions?
So, Mr. and Mrs. Beacham, that was my question about the middle school. I teach middle school. I actually teach financial literacy to the 5th. We actually have, my school has 5th and 6th grade in the middle school. So I teach 5th and 6th grade. But I've got parents asking me to teach them to, hey, can I get involved with this? Because this wasn't offered to them when they were in school. So this is kind of cool. So
we hear this so much, how parents feel embarrassed to ask simple questions. And then their kids are taught these questions for the first time and the education goes back home. And it helps parents get simple questions answered without being ashamed of not knowing the answers. So yeah, I think it's a great idea to do it with the 5th and 6th graders. 5th may be a little young, but 6th graders, yeah, I think you can.
Beth asked in the chat, what is the amount of time this usually takes to complete?
As much time as you want to dedicate to it. So I've done it in an hour, sweating, because sometimes we get off point with stories, and that's great as far as I'm concerned. Anybody who wants to share a money story, and it's never taken me longer than 2 hours. It's just never taken me longer than that, because then the kids get kind of bored. But I have to tell you, it is so much more fun when they're doing their own tally sheets. That's going to take time, because even though we do a lot of math, they're still going to be using a calculator, right, to get through it, unless they're doing it online and they're using the automated spreadsheet. Sometimes kids get stuck, and I'm not proud of this, but one young man started to cry. He picked chef, and I think I destroyed his dreams a little bit, but we did kind of get over that hump. But you will get to a point where somebody runs out of money and they're going to raise their hand. And then as a group, you stop and you take a look at what's happened here. Maybe we save a little less. Maybe we share a little less on the donate. Maybe, you know, we start to adjust things. So you see how that time can expand or contract depending on how engaged the students are.
Yeah, we really recommend that you use the paper-based sheets and you have the kids do the math themselves with a calculator and a pencil so that they can go back and they can erase, because it just makes the whole trade-off scenario more real to them.
So I just saw a comment about I would downgrade the salaries to be more realistic. So what we did is we went to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and we took the average salaries that they list from their data. I recognize that there's probably a big difference between a nurse making, you know, 70,000 according to Bureau of Labor and the reality. But I wanted to give you a benchmark.
Yeah, to offer up, they actually do have some of those statistics for each state for South Carolina. I just don't know exactly where they are. They may, I'm sure they're in the Bureau of Labor Statistics somewhere, but they do have them adapted.
By state.
Googling and figure that out. One other question that came up, Michael, there weren't that many slides. Are these slides available to the folks that are participating in this? I mean, if they come to us?
No, the slides are not available because essentially the whole game is in the slides.
Okay, all right.
Over states, our state and county.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Someone commented that the Bureau of Labor Statistics overstates for South Carolina
Mm-hmm.
at your teacher salaries.
Well, you notice I didn't pick teacher because I knew that that was going to be the case. Yeah, I know.
Well, Michael and Susan, I'd like to sort of wrap it up and say thank you very, very much for presenting this and bringing this resource to the teachers. You know, there's lots of different variations, and you've got a great one that is available to all of them. I would also like to remind the teachers, we will be sending out on Thursday the evaluations for you to fill those in, because for those of you who are inclined for to the incentive money for attending 2 of the sessions, you do have to fill out the evaluation forms. So if you could do that, I'd appreciate it.
And yes, an answer to a question, Jim, you get one copy of this and you can use it in as many classes as you want, Jennifer.
Okay, great. Okay. So that kind of corrected my comment in the chat room. So at any rate, is there any other last minute, and you're welcome to stick around. We're going to go ahead and close down. But if you want to stick around for a little while, we understand, but I know a lot of folks have to move on to the next session. So,
thank you, Jim, and thank you,
thanks very much.
And thank you, teachers. It's a lot later there than it is here where we are, so thank you so much. You have a good evening.
All right, that's great. So you all can go ahead and go out now. I'm going to leave it open because this is a separate session from the others. So
Okay.
thank you all very much.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.